Welcome back, everybody, to The Brink, as we come to you for another phantasmal episode of your favourite show that ever was a show to ever be a show. It's... oh, she's hurting herself as she sits down. My name is Ben, and she's burping, and this is the beautiful and always charming and never rude...
me.
Mallory.
Yes.
Say your name. Say your name.
Mallory.
Good. And we're coming to you this week with lots of things happening, but we just pre-recorded the Ben and Mal Variety Hour. Tune in Wednesdays on Radio South on 96.4 FM. We had a very long-winded segment talking about the Toronto Raptors, but I'm just going to mention this right now because this is more relevant today because we can talk about this more before Tuesday because this isn't going to air after Tuesday. The Raptors 3-1 up right now. I'm so pumped. I'm excited. I'm wearing a shirt right now. I'm going to have to watch the damn game at work during the week. I'm not excited about that, but whatever. Just I'm so nervous.
Yes.
Because, like, you know, I go for Carlton, I go for so many teams, I go for Ferrari, I go for teams that choke, and one team in the history of the NBA has lost leading 3-1 in the finals. That was Golden State. That only happened 3 years ago when they lost to LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, just, you've not watched any of them. I don't know what I'm asking you here, but it's exciting. We've talked about this. You're sick of talking about this, but you excited?
I'm excited.
What else was your dad saying? You mentioned this on the Ben and Mal Variety Hour that your dad was messaging you about the Raptors.
Oh, about the tickets?
Yeah.
That the lowest price ticket currently is $1,200 and the most expensive one is a lot.
Has he been watching the games?
I think so.
I didn't know how much your dad was into basketball. I thought he might have messaged me because he was messaging me when the Calgary were losing. Gee, that seems like such a long time ago now, doesn't it? I remember when all these players, because like the NHL and NBA players go for like 2 months, and going into it, like, you know, I had Calgary who were top of the West, second in the whole competition. Toronto who was second in the East, second in the whole competition. I was more confident about Calgary. I was like, oh, okay, well, if Toronto can just make it here, and I was more focused on Calgary because I think honestly Calgary probably had a better chance. A lot of people would have said going in. I was promptly disappointed by them losing 4-1 in the opening round and getting eliminated. I was all right, fully focused on the Raptors now. But gee, that seems like so long ago now. How are the Canucks doing?
Shut up.
How would you be right now if this was the Canucks?
Oh, so excited. I would be watching every game.
So, like, we should mention in the NHL, actually, because it's kind of exciting, too, that tomorrow it's Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals, which I've barely paid any attention to, because really I don't care about the teams. But I'm excited that St. Louis one win away from winning the Stanley Cup, which will be their first. They will break the equal longest drought without a Stanley Cup. Do you know who the other team is with an... It's not Vancouver, don't worry, I'm not doing this to rub it in. The other team, which is kind of... is it ironic, the word? Poignant? I don't know what the word is if Toronto were to win the champion. If St. Louis win the Stanley Cup, Toronto will stand on their own 2 feet as the longest drought without... Because St. Louis are equal with Toronto because they started the year that Toronto won the last Stanley Cup, if that makes sense.
I don't remember a day when Toronto didn't suck. Like, we all cheer for them, but they suck.
It's just funny that if Toronto were to win the championship in the NBA and St. Louis were to... Like, bad week for the Maple Leafs. I think, like, there'd be the diehard Maple Leafs fans who don't care about basketball at all, who would be going like, fuck you, Toronto, this city, this should be us, and fuck you, St. Louis, I'm going to go drink a bottle of maple syrup.
That's what we do.
This to me, for our Australian listeners, like when Mallory just said about, you know, Toronto, hadn't been a time that Toronto hasn't started. That to me what is like with Richmond. Richmond always sucked growing up. They were always so close and never made it. When they won the grand final the other year, it was odd. It was odd. And then the year that followed, seeing cocky Richmond supporters. This would be like if the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. You'd have to deal with cocky Leafs supporters.
That'd be awful.
Yeah, weird. Very weird. Yeah, so let's go Raptors.
Woo.
I think you're going to hear Colin talk a little bit more about it in just a moment, but it's time to celebrate because the Raptors could be winning. So let's hear more. A couple of weeks ago, we had this man on. It's been a couple of weeks since, and we've got him on again. That's a really terrible introduction. Colin Hilding is back. Hello, Colin. Welcome back to the Brink.
Hey, and we're not talking about hockey.
We're talking about basketball. We can talk a bit about hockey in a minute, but just to preempt, just quickly, that we are recording this just before Game 2 of the NBA Finals is about to start. So clearly by the end of the week when you hear this, the Raptors have choked and they've been swept and they're out of the finals, clearly. But I want to talk to Colin about the perspective of Canada right now, because I tried to talk to Mallory, And A, she's not in Canada right now, and B, she doesn't really care for basketball. So that conversation didn't really go too well. Now, you, as far as I believe, don't care too much for basketball. You might want to correct me on that one. I don't know. But you are in Canada. So I've seen a lot has been happening in terms of Canadians getting on the bandwagon. A lot of my Canadian friends online are all of a sudden Raptors supporters. Justin Trudeau is tweeting every 5 seconds about the Raptors. It's great. I love seeing this. This is something I've always wanted to see happen because I've always noticed whenever I'm in Canada and you're not in Toronto, the Raptors get ignored and it's all about the Blue Jays. And it's like, because they're Canada's team. It's like, well, so are the Raptors. Like, but hey, cool. But now it's happening. Canada has got Raptors fever. What is it like being right now in Canada as finally a team from your country has made one of the big four major playoffs, major final series for the first time in over 20 years?
You know what's weirdest about it is that I don't think there's a lot of people who even watch basketball who are getting excited about it because hockey is the number one sport. And as far as it goes with me, I mean, if you were to ask me what my favorite sport to play was, basketball would blow every other sport away. You know, the only main reason I don't watch basketball is because it runs the same time as hockey, and who has the time for all that other than Ben? Mallory certain doesn't, but like now that I guess we're coming off of the worst NHL playoffs in history. You know, I'm amazed that Canadians are actually so tuned out of even the NHL playoffs, like just couldn't care less. They're used to Canadians not winning that. They'll watch all the way to the end. People don't care about the Stanley Cup Finals. Everybody's talking about this all of a sudden. And I don't even think, you know, even when it was the Final Four or whatever, it was like, oh, the Raptors are there, but there was still like a lot of hockey talk. And now nobody's talking about hockey. And everywhere you go, it is, oh, the Raptors. And it probably is mostly people who have never watched basketball before. But this is a very Canadian thing because you mentioned like the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays started doing really well a couple of years ago. If you go back a few years prior to that, the Blue Jays was the same reaction you had to the Raptors. People were like, we have a team still? And this is Canadians. You know, if we can't win in hockey, if we win in anything else, we will support you. And if we're not winning, we'll forget you exist.
Is it, I mean, how much had you followed the Raptors, your team? I don't know. Like, I don't think I've ever really had a discussion with you about the NBA before. Are the Raptors your team or are they just your team now?
I mean, they are now. I think there were a few years when I was growing up as a teenager where I was watching, basketball and hockey because you have more time then. I think it was, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, it looked like the Raptors were doing really well, and I was watching some of them then. Other than that, I mean, if you had to pick a team, I kind of always gravitate towards the Minnesota teams, because even though the Raptors are Canadian, Minnesota's so close to Winnipeg that, I'll cheer for the Vikings in the NFL or the Timberwolves in the NBA. But, I mean, I'm definitely attaching myself to the Raptors now because I'm a typical Canadian. We're winning at something. They're my team. I was with them from the beginning.
Is there excitement in Winnipeg? Like, do you see, are there viewing parties? Are there people wearing Raptors gear? Because I noticed, I think I looked at a Snapchat sort of feed in Victoria, and pretty much all of them were people watching the Raptors games, and even people in Vancouver and places like that, I've been seeing it. So is it that way in Winnipeg as well?
I mean, I know I watched about 30 minutes of game one in between baby feedings and baby cryings and baby changings. I don't really get out much other than that, so I can't tell you viewing parties. I do know that, like, I go into work and where most people would be talking about, oh, this TV show, the Game of Thrones finale, the NHL playoffs, I'm overhearing conversations every couple minutes talking about the Raptors. And if you go out in public, you're seeing a lot more Raptors merchandise, not just people wearing it, but like you go to the store, like Walmart. I don't know if I've ever really noticed a lot of Raptors merchandise, and suddenly it's on the shelves. The Blue Jays stuff, the Jet stuff, it's all pushed aside. Now we're selling Raptors stuff.
I mean, I noticed that last year in Victoria because we went to a Walmart and I just Blue Jay stuff everywhere. And then like I found a Raptors t-shirt, so I bought it, and then I think I saw one Raptors hat. But I even think the last time I was in Toronto, I remember getting off the train and sort of being underneath the train station where the CN Tower is, and you kind of got these billboard sort of things where you've got like Maple Leafs players, a Blue Jays player, and I think there was like one, it might have been Kyle Lowry or DeMar DeRozan when he was still there, and it's kind of like, I'm thinking, the Raptors probably out of all these teams have been doing the best recently, and yet you're kind of shoving them sort of as the third tier. It's interesting, but I love seeing this because one thing I actually spent a good time watching the other night after they won game one was just all the fan reaction, like just the streets of Toronto and just like, God help Toronto if they win.
Drake was going crazy.
Oh, Drake is incredible. And there was even an article here in Australia the other day about why Drake is the most hated man in the NBA. And I commented saying haters gonna hate, hashtag we the North. I personally Drake, I don't mind some of his songs. I watched Degrassi when he was the dude in the wheelchair. But I honestly just have such a fandom of Drake as a Raptors fan. And that's purely, I think, the reason why I love the man so much is just because he's so energetic courtside. He's just so in your face. He just doesn't give a shit. And I love it. I love seeing Drake. I would hate him if I wasn't a Raptors fan. Of course I would. But this is the thing. I am a Raptors fan, so I love the guy.
And plus, I mean, I think all Canadians are the same as the way I am. When there's a Canadian that makes it big, in America, and yet they still attach themselves to Canada, that's the most exciting thing for Canadians. Canadians love Rachel McAdams because she's I still live in Toronto. Why would I move to LA? And Drake, obviously before, I'm sure you've heard of it or whatever, or you've seen the show, so you would know. He was originally one of the cast members on Degrassi, which was the teen drama in Canada. And I remember when he first started making big in music, the guy from Degrassi is a thing now.
That was,
and then the fact that he's then the fact that he's, obviously the biggest music star in the world, and he's no, I'm cheering for my home team still. That's awesome. I mean, you add that to the fact that I'm pretty sure he's banged Nicki Minaj. I'm this guy's my hero. Good for you, Drake. That
escalated quickly. I'm all right.
Well, he's got two things going for him. He's Canadian
and Nicki Minaj.
There you go.
I implore you to look up, though. There's this perceived Drake curse because he does jump on the bandwagon a lot of pretty successful teams. So, a lot of European soccer teams, for example, he supported 10 different teams and all of them will end up losing every time he wears one of their jerseys. And he actually even has a Steph Curry and Kevin Durant tattoo, from the Golden State Warriors. And I think during game one, he subtly covered them up because there was even one of his songs he was rapping about Steph Curry. So, but I mean, the thing is, though, he has, no matter what people say about him, he has been on the Raptors train for a long... I mean, he's the global ambassador for the Toronto Raptors. I think literally they're the only NBA club who have a global ambassador. And once a year, the Raptors will have a Drake Night-themed game in Toronto where they basically put everything with the Drake logo across everything. And it's just kind of... It's a big deal. I think it's kind of clever the way they do that. But I did see a tweet... And I'd love to get your opinion on this, not only because you're a Leafs fan, but you are a Canadian, and we all know the hockey big deal over there. And that it caused a bit of controversy because a lot of people were complaining about this tweet. But I don't know who he was. He was some sports reporter or something in Toronto, basically said that as exciting as this is for Toronto right now, I guarantee you every single person out there would rather this be the Leafs than the Raptors and would not be caring about this if the Leafs were there at the same time. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless the Leafs lost and the Raptors won, then they would suddenly care. I mean, that's just because, that's Canada's sport. And the Leafs, a team that people have been... Because this is the reason I was saying that I'm kind of excited by this. It's kind of the opposite of why, people would not want to win. The last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup was 1993. Here we could potentially have a championship team come to Canada in a sport where we only have one team, and that team's existed for less time than the last Canadian Stanley Cup winner. I mean, what is 1995 or 96 was their first season?
95, and that was the year that, Vancouver Grizzlies obviously started the same year, but they've since moved to Memphis, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if they won, this same way, I think I mentioned, the reason I would not root for St. Louis for the Stanley Cup is because they're tied with the Leafs for the longest drought. And if St. Louis wins, well, then that means the Leafs are worse. And there probably are people out there who are well, if the Raptors win, I mean, doesn't that just make us worse in hockey? But people also have to remember, I mean, the team is from Toronto. I mean, the majority of the players are not Canadian too.
Well, I don't think any players, if I'm not mistaken, are Canadian. I need to double check that. But I mean, it's kind of like what Canadians obviously say with the Stanley Cup, isn't it? That American teams win with Canadian players. I'm sure the Americans are going to be the first to say, if the Raptors win, a Canadian team won with American players.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it is completely true. I don't think even people who hate the Leafs probably, if this right now where the Leafs are, in the Stanley Cup Finals and the Raptors are too, they would probably be rooting for the Leafs over the Raptors just because that is our sport, which is weird because most people don't realize hockey did not originate in Canada, yet basketball did. Basketball was created in Canada. So technically that should be more our sport than hockey is.
Yeah, because Canadians invented basketball, right? Like, yeah, it's weird. I'm just looking here. The only active player for the Raptors who's actually Canadian is Chris Boucher. Boucher. I don't even think he's been playing games. I think he's injured at the moment. So, and according to one article, it's saying he's from Oregon, but according to another one, it's saying he's Canadian. So, make up your mind. Yeah, and I think you say about how Montreal won the Stanley Cup in 1993, the same year that the Blue Jays won their second of their 2 World Series in a row. So a Canadian team has not won one of the big 4 North American sports since. I mean, the Toronto FC won the MLS 2 years ago. Come on.
Wait, hold on a second. A Canadian team has won the CFL Grey Cup almost every year in the last 25 years. Almost.
Well, I think it was pretty... I mean, I root for the Toronto FC. I know soccer's kind of the 5th sport out of those 4, the big 4. But, I mean, that was kind of cool that Toronto won something. But, again, I love how, everyone's like, Toronto's in such a sporting drought. And it's like, guys, Toronto FC won 2 years ago, but clearly soccer's not caring enough. Just quickly, though, while you mentioned hockey... Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, it's kind of must suck for you then that it's St. Louis, a team you don't want to win because of the Leafs factor, and then Boston. No one wants Boston to win. They don't want to have 3 out of the 4 trophies in 1 year. Wouldn't it be poignant if 3 out of the 4 trophies went to Boston and the other one went to a Canadian team in a non-Canadian sport? Like that would kind of work. At the time of recording this, Boston are 2-1 up. They belted St. Louis yesterday. Obviously. They might have won the cup by the time this gets released at the end of the week. Anything interesting coming from the Stanley Cup?
Well, I mean, St. Louis had at least one good game, and I did watch Game 1, and I thought, they're a much more, despite the fact that the last game was not even close, they seem to be a more evenly matched teams than we've seen in a while. But... it's just weird. I haven't heard a single person talking about these finals. Like, when you brought up... I almost had to think for a second, okay, it was Boston and, St. Louis. It's just, it's not even in the public eye right now.
And it's Canada. That's fascinating. I did notice it before Game 1, they had a concert featuring Lil Nas X or whatever his name, because he's got that one song, and Chase Rice.
Oh, boy.
I know, because...
he's still alive.
When you think about hockey, you think of country music.
Yeah.
I just love the comments when the NHL announced this lineup. Everyone's like, yeah, you're matching your audience there, guys. Like, country music and hockey.
Now, imagine if it was Drake and Nicki Minaj.
Throw in Rihanna and Colin just
yes.
has triplets. Always a pleasure. We hopefully talk again soon and we can talk about how the Raptors are choked. But hey, cool. At least they made the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. The only hope for Canada is a bunch of Americans.
We're enjoying our flashbacks of our Days of Our Pies series that we used to have on the show many, many years ago. We are now going to play for you the 3rd episode of the 1st season of Days of Our Pies. It makes me smile thinking about how we did this and why we did it in general. So, without further ado, Season 1, Episode 3, Days of Our Pies.
Previously on Days of Our Pies.
Well, hello there. My name is Lisa Muffin, and I have just arrived from the United States of America to your wonderful small town.
My God! It's Billy Muslaba and his illegitimate father, Roy Bollicero. They have been shot.
Have they woken up yet? Did they say who shot them?
I know you. You're Billy's mother.
Like pastry in the oven, these are the days of our pies. I'm Lisa Jones, and these are the days of our pies.
The Newstown resident, Lisa Muffin, may have come to Ramsey Bay looking for a fresh start, but it was more than a fresh start that found her. She was pointed out by the recently shot Roy Ball of cereal at the hospital after he had just woken up.
Yeah, you're Billy's mother. I haven't seen you in 10 years. But here you are, right by me bedside.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. I remember that night in the pub in the Big Smoke. You and I had that drink and one thing led to another. You were the only woman I've ever slept with. Oh my god. This is impossible.
Why? Why is it impossible? Roy isn't that hideously ugly that he couldn't have had a one-night stand?
No, not that. The fact that Roy left Ramsey Bay. No one has left Ramsey Bay for 22 years. Not since Farmer Jimbo Jobherd went to get a packet of smoke that vending machine had run out of. Well, I did leave. I was so sad after the Ramsey Bay Rocketeers lost the grand final. Had to get away. And then I went to the pub. And yeah, I had too much to drink. And then I met her. And before you knew it, Billy was born.
You have got me mistaken for someone else. I am from the United States of America, and have never been to your fine country before today.
No, it's definitely you. You had the same birthmark on your left cheek, the same misshaped breasts near your elbows.
Okay, so it was me. So shoot me.
Now, Miss Muffin, I think there's enough shooting to be done here for one day.
All of a sudden, George's wife Jennifer Pyman walks in.
Oh my god, Roy, you're alive.
Ah, Jennifer, why did it take you so long to get in here? Why has it taken so long for Billy's mother to be revealed? And why, oh why, does none of this make sense?
George, calm down, Roy. Who is Billy's mother? That would be me, Lisa Muffin.
Lisa Muffin? I thought your name was Rita Ramyabum.
It was, but I changed it just after I gave birth to Billy. I had a little trouble with the law, but we don't need to get into that.
Just then, Billy wakes up.
Daddy! Where's Daddy?
Billy, me boy, I'm here, and I have a big surprise for you. I want you to meet your mother.
Billy looks over and sees Lisa, who smiles at him, but Billy is not happy to see her.
Ah!
Billy, what is it?
It's okay, Billy. It's me, Mom. Ah! No!
Billy, calm down. It's okay, I'm here. I'm a policeman. You can tell me what the problem is, Billy.
That's the woman who shot us!
Did Lisa shoot Billy and Roy? Why is Billy's last name different to that of Lisa and Roy's? Will Frank get to have lunch with Lisa? And what on earth did Lisa do to change her name? Find out next time on Days of Our Pies.
So it's that time of the show where we ask questions by our man Richard Herring, emergency questions. We're going through them very swimmingly. What are we up to? 440 now. It's 441. So we're only a few weeks away from completing all 500. Who would have thunk it that we would have ever done this? All right, Mallory, you're asking the questions this week, so over to you.
I am. Question number 441. If you could swap a TV show that went on for too long with one that was canceled too soon, which shows would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. Grey's Anatomy is the answer for one that went on for too long. Although I almost feel like saying The Simpsons, just because I love The Simpsons, but it should have ended a while ago. No, Grey's Anatomy. There's no reason why it should be in the 16th season and overpass ER. That's dumb. And I would just go with a couple more seasons of Third Watch. Why not? I don't think they really could have done any more with it, but I wouldn't say no to my favourite show. What about you?
I will agree with your TV show to cut off. Oh my gosh. What did you say it was?
Grey's Anatomy.
Thank you. Yes, that one. Gilmore Girls could totally use a couple more seasons. But that being said, I'm not even done Third Watch yet, and I wish that there were more episodes. So
you're nearly halfway.
I understand that feeling, I think. But I don't know how it ends, so I can't say, definitely that. 442. Why is there a Mr. Potato Head, but no Mr. Tomato Bollocks?
I don't know. Let's invent one.
Let's not. 443. If you could be any character in The Simpsons, there you go, Ben. How would you cope with the fact that you were fictional and only spoke or did anything at the whim of writers and animators?
Well, you wouldn't know, would you? This is a thing. They don't know. I've always said, if I was to be part of a TV show, there's questions if you could live a TV show, what would you be? I'd want to be part of a comedy or a sitcom, because, you think about Friends. If you lived in the world of Friends, even the bad times, there's only a laughter around the corner, and everyone's having fun, everyone's happy. All situations are kind of great. So, I'd choose Friends or something. But The Simpsons is kind of like that too. It's silly, it's quirky, it's kind of there. So, that's my answer. It's not really answering the question, but it's a dumb question because TV characters don't know that they're in a TV show. It's not the Truman Show. It's not Survivor. That's a reality show, and they know they're in it.
Yes.
How would you?
I don't think I would care.
She's never watched Simpsons in her life. Move on.
Yep. 444. What is the funniest prank call you have ever made?
I was drunk and my friend Katie, I feel I've answered this question before. Her mother was a real piece of work, let's just say. Not a very nice woman. And she dared me to, like, ring her. So I rang her and I was like, oh, this is Dr. Jones from the maternity unit at the Royal Hobart Hospital. Just want to speak to Katie Howie, please, about her test results. And she was like, what? What test results? I'm her mother. I'm like, sorry, I can't disclose that right now. She basically ended up hanging up on me. And then 5 minutes later, Katie's sister was ringing up, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? So, yeah, that was mine.
That's actually so funny. I think I've heard you answer this question before.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've told that story on air before.
That's hilarious. I never did prank calls. Like, that wasn't a me thing. 445. Would you rather have a mirror in which you could see all your dead relatives and friends, but not able to talk to them, but see them sadly waving at you, or a voucher for 2 for 1 at Pizza Express Monday through Thursday?
I think we'll go for the pizza, because that mirror one sounds kind of sad. Like, what's the difference between that and looking at a photo or a video? Like, if you can't say anything and they're sadly waving at you, that's just sad. Yeah. And they don't go into details. When they say dead relatives, I mean, they could be, like, rotting and things like that. Like, well, they say dead relatives, like, you don't know. Like, this could be one of those specific things. Like, the genie in Aladdin says you've got to be specific with your wishes. If you've not seen Bedazzled, we watched that movie with, you got to be specific. So, no, the pizza one.
I'm with the pizza, too. 446, pizza. 446, which TV personality are you most surprised has got a job because they are so bad at what they do and makes you suspect that they have slept or are sleeping with the right person? Joey. On Friends?
Oh, like the character?
Yeah.
Not like Matt LeBlanc. Oh, Lord, there's a list.
I understand the question. I didn't understand the question, but I understand where your mind went.
I gotta have a list. Mel McLaughlin. She's a sports reporter who, no, she's not very good at a job. Like, to me, she only got the job because she's good to look at and she can host the show. But, like, you watch her interview people, like, she's terrible. She doesn't know what to ask. And she just asks, like, so, you made the Olympics. You must be happy. Like, I mean, any person can ask that question. So, yeah, I'm not a Mel McLaughlin fan. I think, yeah, no, she fits that category.
Biscuits or actresses?
What's that? What?
That's the next question.
And you're not going to answer the question?
I did.
Biscuits or actresses? Like, in what context?
That's all it says.
I can't have biscuits, surely. It's actresses.
Biscuits. 448. If you could live in any area...
Hang on a minute, but then everything you watch would only have men in it.
What's a biscuit?
A biscuit, like eating it, like a biscuit.
Yeah, that's what I thought a biscuit was. I want a biscuit.
Yeah, but like if that was a choice, technically, again, the specifics of it, that might mean that all actresses are obsolete, so therefore you're only going to watch anything with men in it.
That's fine. I'll eat my cookies. Thank you.
So that movie you watched today with Gerard Butler and what's the weird face name, that would end up being like Gerard Butler and, I don't know, Jason Statham kissing at the end instead.
That's fine. 100 times better. I don't like that girl.
But you don't like watching two men kiss either.
But cookies.
Okay, sorry, moving on.
I don't understand how it's a competition. If you could live in any era, why did you choose this one? I didn't choose this one. Move on.
I would like to live in the future. Nothing from the past really phases me. I mean, yeah, sometimes I think about, like, it'd be cool to live in a time where you could keep the knowledge of today and then you could invent things and become rich and know things. But, yeah, the horse. But, like, if somebody said to me, you have to choose an era, like, 100 years from now, like, it'd just be fascinating to see what the world is like. Could be worse, could be over. Who knows?
If the world is still here, like...
But then you could read through the history books and go, oh, Carlton won a premiership. Oh, wait, no, we didn't.
449. If you only had a week to live, who would you tell to go fuck themselves? All of my bosses.
I would, yeah, a lot of people.
450. If you had to eat a person, who would you eat and in what order would you devour their body sections? Gross. I'm not answering that.
Katherine Heigl. Nah, she'd be too chewy. She'd have not much meat. The blonde woman you watched in that movie today.
I don't like her.
That's why we're going to eat her.
This is disgusting. 451. If your love making can be described by a weathered event or a natural disaster, what would it be?
I feel like we need to answer this one for each other.
Rich says an April shower.
Strong winds with a chance of hail.
452.
Answer the question.
I don't know. A beautiful sunny day.
Aww.
452. Would you rather have pubic hair made out of unremovable barbed wire or be attacked by a rabid badger in your sleep once a week? Barbed wire.
Oh. I'm going to go with the badger just because I feel like you could anticipate it and it doesn't say anything that you can't protect yourself from it. Whereas the barbed wire pubes, like, that's going to rip your clothes. You're never going to be able to have sex. It's going to hurt when you pee. So, yeah, and it'll rust.
When you pee.
Well, because, like, you know, I've got a floppy thing down there. You've just got lips. I don't think I really needed to say lips, but let's move on.
Can you knit? What's the best thing you ever knitted?
A few times when I was younger, I asked Mum to teach me to knit, and she taught me. And the longest thing I knit was like I would call it like a tenth of a scarf, and then I gave up. So that's about it.
I'd say a scarf. I started making a shirt once, and then I gave up. 454. Do you think thunderstorms were invented by NASA to muffle the sound of space battles? No. What?
Yes.
455. Do you have a sticker album or collect PG Tips cards as a child? Can you still remember the cards or stickers you never found? No.
I had card. I collected all kinds of trading cards, but I also had sticker albums. We had like AFL sticker albums. I think I had a Pokemon sticker album. I think I had one of the Soccer World Cup albums. So yeah, I had plenty, and I don't think I ever completed one. So could I tell you what ones I didn't get? Probably just the shiny special edition ones that you'd always want. So yeah.
What was your favorite Kinder Egg toy?
I got a Jurassic Park one once, didn't I? I got a Star Wars one once. I got a little TIE fighter in one of them. I used to love Kinder Surprises. My nan used to give Lindsay and I one every Sunday night for just part of our dessert. So nice. That was like our weekly treat. I loved Kinder Surprises. Oh, yum. I really want a Kinder Surprise now.
I always loved the crayons that like stacked on top of each other, and they were like little animals. Those were my favorite. 457. How many weeks would you have to attend the Roman Catholic Holy Communion before you had eaten an entire Jesus? Please show your works.
That's funny. I didn't believe that was a thing until I went to Mormon church.
Believe what was it?
Like that they gave you bread and like water. And then I'm not a church person. Like I just, so when I went to Mormon church in Salt Lake City, they came around with the bread and the water. And I was like, oh, sweet, food. And then I'm like, oh, crap, I'm eating Jesus.
I think it would take a very long time.
I mean, Jesus wasn't that fat, so.
Yeah, but every time you get like a cracker like that big, construct yourself out of crackers that are this big, it's going to take a while.
I'm sure someone's done that before.
458. How much time do you spend on the toilet when you're doing a poo?
A lot. I love doing poos, and it's great because I read shit, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my morning poo. My morning poo's like a ritual.
Not as long as Ben does. 459. Do you have a favorite dinosaur? No, I don't mean species of dinosaur. I mean individual, actual, non-fictional dinosaur. What was his or her name?
Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex is a really famous skeleton which is in the Field Museum in Chicago, which I have seen, and I would say Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Very famous.
I'd say Stiggy or Cat.
Good call.
460. Would you rather be lactose intolerant or the Prime Minister of the Central African Republic?
Prime Minister of the Central African Republic. I'd love to be a leader of a country. I'd probably get assassinated because I don't know how they like their leaders in that part of the world. I know they have a lot of problems, but maybe I could be the man to fix it. Who knows? I would not want to be lactose intolerant. That would not be fun because I couldn't eat cheese. I'd have to shit all the time.
I reckon I'd choose lactose intolerant because you can take pills. It'll help. It'll be fine.
Or you could just be a leader of a country and just like quit on day one and get a hefty pension.
True.
And you'd go down in history books.
True.
All right, thank you. That was fun.
Sorry.
We always like to bring in the big guests to this show, and none are bigger than Joshua Schubert. Hello, Josh. Welcome back to the Brink.
I take offence to that.
Why? Because you're the biggest.
I've been on a zero sugar diet for 2 weeks. I should have lost weight.
Oh my god, me too. Except I've been on the keto diet, which technically is zero sugar. So 0 sugar, 0 carbs.
I was looking at the keto, and I don't know. I'm still for me, the jury's out on it.
Well,
Still.
a diet is okay by me when I get to like 8 o'clock at night and go, shit, I need to eat more fat and just chop off like 20 blocks of cheese, and then that's okay for the diet. So I'm okay with a diet that does that.
That's freaking mad. I have to say that. So how long have you been on the keto for?
At the time of recording this, like 6 days. But I haven't cheated yet. I've done well. So,
Which I have to say, like, I've known you now.
Too long.
Hell, we've known each other for
15 years.
all right.
No, longer than that.
No,
Grade 9,
longer
2002,
than that.
17 years.
Yeah, 17 years, coming up 20.
Jesus, we're almost
Okay,
legal.
I know. I know. And in that time, I've actually never known you to be one to be in excess. Like, you don't do, like, from what I've seen, I've never seen you eat to excess or drink to excess. You're actually been fairly moderate. And you always had, and I've always known you to have some form of physical thing where you go for a walk or you do something as well.
Well, thank you.
But
clearly...
saying that, I haven't seen you in 3 years.
You don't see those late night binges where I just grab a couple of pack of Tim Tams and gorge them down with 50 bottles of vodka. I mean, look, I agree with you. I think I've never been one of excess. The drinking bit, well, you clearly didn't see my glory days when I turned 18, but whatever. But yeah, I think
We've only ever been drunk together once.
Have we?
Once.
When was that?
Just after your 18th.
I don't remember ever getting drunk with you. That's a sad thing.
Once. It's one. Once.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll believe you. I've never been one to really gorge and everything like that. So it's just like, it's my makeup. It's how I am. It's, the whatever zones it is. But it's interesting you say you're on the no sugar diet. Now, I think the biggest thing I've found since I've been on this keto diet is how many bloody foods have sugar in it. We went shopping the other day. We needed to get bacon because you can have bacon on this diet. It's great. Every single packet of bacon we found, sugar. Like
that's why you need to go and get from the deli.
Well, we went to do that, but they didn't sell it in the deli. You had to get it from the thing. So yeah.
Well, okay. Well, you went to the deli. Maybe you should have gone to the deli.
Deli.
But yeah. Well, see, this is what I'm talking. Like, the biggest thing I find, like, how people go, "Oh, there's no excuse to be fat. There is no excuse to be overweight." And I'm like, no, that's BS. Because you go, say, for me to get my sugar-free snacks and whatnot, I go to like the Whole Food section at the supermarket, and like so. They've got like an Oreo variant, which is 0 sugar. I can have. A packet of those is $4.50. Mm-hmm. Or I can go over to the other aisle where they sell the normal Oreos and $1.
Well, that's
for a packet. So it's the biggest thing. Like, why is it cheaper when it hasn't got some of the ingredients?
It's exactly the same as we had to get a variant of aioli and ketchup, and you buy yourself a bottle of ketchup for what, like $1, $2? This sort of vegetably sweetened ketchup, and it's still got like 1 gram of sugar per serve, but it's not added sugar. It's natural sugar. It's like $8, $8 a bottle for a bottle of ketchup.
Yeah, no, screw that. And I'm all for clean eating and all that sort of thing. I'm not one of those militant vegans who just wants to, I don't wear a shirt saying I'm a vegan. I think the most militant thing that I do is say I love Star Wars, hence my hat. If you've noticed my hat.
I have, yes. All our listeners are noticing that too, yes.
Yes. It's got the sign of the rebellion.
Yeah, not the resistance, the rebellion.
No, this is actually, it's got the markings, funnily enough. I know we're off topic. The markings of the Endor Special Forces during the Battle of Endor.
I was going to say that, but I was waiting for you to bring it up. So
No. I got a loot crate the other day. I was pretty stoked. So
I got it.
Anyway, so as I was saying... Yeah.
I was going to tell a joke that it failed. Move on.
Yeah, no, and it's... Like, where I live, we have enough property we've got like a mini, I'll say like micro farm sort of thing. We've got chickens, we've got 2 very large vegetable gardens. Vegetable bed's a big pumpkin mound. And we grow a lot of our own stuff. But still, it's still expensive going to the shops.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's always been the thing, isn't it, with like eating healthy and bad. Like, I mean, the biggest thing I ever saw with things like that is in America. You know, it's easy to see why obesity is a thing there. And I'm not trying to say it's not a thing in Australia or New Zealand or anywhere else in sort of the Western world.
It's becoming a thing.
Yeah, whereas like, you know, you would easily be able to get a large takeaway meal from a fast food restaurant for $6, $7, $8 in America because it's very cheap, and then any form of healthy sort of salad variety, there's like a $10 discrepancy, and you know, it's a bit of a different system we know in America when it comes to things like, you know, welfare and Centrelink and things like that. So, I mean, how are people meant to afford to eat with no other option to be able to kind of, you know, do things like that? So, yeah, it's interesting.
And that's where I found I'm probably going to upset a lot of people saying this.
Oh, you upsetting people on this show, Josh. Never. I would never think you would do that.
I know. I never read the comments either. So
you get comments?
I don't know. If someone ever comments a question to me, I want to know, and I will answer it.
Josh, if we ever get a comment question to us, you'll be hearing me singing on top of Mount Cook, mate, across the bloody Tasman Sea. Like, believe me.
I made some comments the other day about something, and I really got.
I like watching your Facebook. I enjoy watching you post your Facebook things and the comments that it comes. I tend to avoid it as best as I can because you know what's happened like in the past. But anyway, offend someone. What are you about to say?
Okay, what was I going to say? Hey, no, the documentary that came out when we were in high school, the Super Size Me, I found that quite misleading.
It just made me want McDonald's
to a degree. I know. That's like Macca's would be great, but what I think's interesting is that this guy goes, I'm going to eat McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I have to supersize it. What's your prior diet? I'm a vegan. Yeah, no wonder you got sick, mate. You've gone from this like utter clean diet. It's just like a heroin, like someone going from not trying any heroin to having the same amount as Whitney Houston. Yeah, straight in the leg. Bang, done. So...
Hang on a minute. Just had to check the clock. No, Whitney Houston jokes are okay. It's fine. Never mind. Just had to check the rules.
Good. Bleep it out if you need to.
Nah.
But yeah, that's just the thing. It's like, I don't know, and you can't regulate it. The way I believe is that your government needs to stay out of these sort of things. So you can't really regulate these sorts of things. But you'd think that the way that they're doing it, it'd be more beneficial to sell healthier food than it is the crappy food. I don't get it.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than just the government stepping in and saying, hey, sell lettuce cheaper than, chocolate biscuits. I mean, we saw the backlash over Coles and Woolworths selling $1 milk and how that was affecting the farmers. So, there's a whole level of things I think they could do. But I think that the interesting thing about the obesity crisis and things like that. I mean, it's when people sort of analyse how we were eating 100 years ago to how we're eating today. And hello, we've got another...
we got Gabriel. Give me 2 seconens. Just
Gabriel, what's up?
He needs a drink of water.
Oh,
give me a sec.
Don't we all? All right, let's...
Go sit back on... Go sit on the couch.
Everyone actually doesn't realise that's just Josh. That's just how he speaks when he wants water to Naomi. So, I believe we're going to take a 2-second break. Let's hear a funny sound.
Do you know what's really pissing me off?
I have a list of things that I could answer that with, but you tell me one of them.
I've been looking for this all morning.
He has his wallet, folks. He has his wallet. Just a quick change of topic, because we do this anyway. How about those Maroons? What a great win on Wednesday night, Josh. How's your New South Wales little bottom feeling right now? Severely whipped?
You know what? I wasn't actually expecting a Blues win this week. Because
there we go. Look at this.
No.
I didn't think we would win.
No. I'm telling my honest opinion. This is my honest opinion. I'm more focused on the fact that my beloved Tigers are. They should have won last week, but they got thrashed.
How are the Knights going?
Don't talk about them anymore.
I don't have much to gloat about in life, Josh. You know, Carlton suck. We can't keep a coach more than Australia can keep a prime minister. I don't know what's going on. So, I'm all about the basketball right now. Follow the bloody Raptors, mate. We're 2-1 up. We're 2 games away from winning an NBA championship.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. Raptors, that's Andrew Bogart's in that team, isn't he? No.
Warriors, other team. He's playing against
Warriors.
Bogues. Who I like the Bogues.
I have a connection. I have a connection to Mr. Bogart.
Tell me how.
His father is one of my friends.
Oh, nice.
He flies model airplanes. I actually met him when I was running in the state election. He was one of my volunteers handing out for me.
Oh.
Very good man. They're very, very smart, very nice people. They live up the road. Great people. Great people.
Well, that's good to know.
I haven't met Andrew yet, but apparently I will eventually.
You let me know.
No, they're good people. But back to this Maroon business. I honestly, I looked at it, and I've gone, it's very rare that we win in Brisbane. Very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we got no hope. I didn't even watch the game, to be honest.
When I checked,
I checked the fetching score at halftime. I've gone, is it 8-0 or 18-0 or something? It was a crazy number. It was like something nil. I'm like, wow, we've got to go. This is great. And then I wake up the next morning. It was like, New South Wales only scored one more try, but then Queensland went from nil to thrashing you. I
have to say, I was lucky enough to go to the third game last year in Brisbane when I was living there, and I've never... Easily one of the most interesting sporting events I've ever been to in terms of the crowd and just the passion. And of course, by that point, New South Wales, you'd already won it. You'd won the first 2 games, so it was a dead rubber. But they still got 50,000 people, just the absolute mentality of Queenslanders and the way they were going at it. It was actually quite an entertaining game, because I remember I think Queenslanders scored the first try, really should have scored a couple more. New South Wales led at half time, and it was sort of a very similar way. But a lot of people then obviously left because they then realised that, hey, cool, we won, but then New South Wales were about to get the trophy. But I still stayed. I watched your lot get the trophy with the fireworks and everything. So I thoroughly recommend, if you ever get an opportunity to go to one, it's definitely, it's not a sport I follow super closely, but it is, the atmosphere and just the feel of being at an Origin game is quite incredible.
Well, that's the thing. It's akin to the Super Bowl of in Australia. It's not necessarily, there's no competition pride to it. It's just 2 states going, all right, let's see who's better. In Queensland, you just go, we're going to take some Victorians.
Well, it's actually even just in the lead up, living in Brisbane, just seeing and I love that. I love that about sport, when you can be in a city or a location when you see that many things. I'd love to be in Toronto right now, just with how everything is taking over that city at the moment. And I would say with the State of Origin, I've lucky enough been to an Origin game and the NRL Grand Final. More passion and excitement and atmosphere in an Origin game than there was at the NRL Grand Final.
I find this is the thing. NRL is really big in 2.5 states. Mm-hmm. Really, if we're really honest,
and a quarter of this country that I'm living in right now too.
Yeah, or rugby is just it's
Well,
more
it's-
union in New Zealand, isn't it?
League is kind of the forgotten stepsister, but like if the Warriors are doing well, everyone here is all up in it, and then if they're not, no one gives a shit. But like you see a fair bit of NRL stuff down here. Like I mean, every sort of sporting shop, they're all selling Warriors merchandise. Where I work, there's a barber opposite my office, and I don't know if the guy who works there is an Aussie or not, but he's got like 4 NRL jerseys hanging up, like old school. I'm talking like the Brisbane Broncos checked one from the 90s, and like some real old school NRL jerseys hanging up. And I've seen Broncos fans, I've seen like Roosters fans, I randomly saw one person wearing a Brisbane Lions hat, and I'm like, how the hell does a Brisbane Lions supporter end up in Invercargill? I'm like, wrong sport, but yeah, like NRL does get a bit of coverage over here. Obviously, it is more union, but you still do get a bit of NRL stuff over here.
Well, that's it, and like I have to say, when I moved to Tasmania when I was a kid, there was no rugby league stuff at all in Tassie. It was all AFL, and I'm going in this going, what the hell is this game? Why is he punching the ball? Like he's trying to fist a ball? What? And this is a kid, and I'm looking at it going, take a mark. I'm like, I haven't got a pen. and like all these things, like as someone coming in, I had no idea what AFL was. This is back, like, 'cause I grew up in Newcastle, which is the homeland of the Newcastle Knights, very thick NRL territory. There is nothing else. Cricket maybe, but that's it.
And I found that interesting living in Queensland too, because I mean, yeah, for the most part, it's all NRL stuff. And I mean, but like I attended a lot more AFL games in Queensland than I did. Like I went to one Broncos game just because they were playing the Sharks. I went to the Origin game and that was it. Whereas I went to 2, 3 Brisbane Lions games and like 4 or 5 Gold Coast Suns games. And I think the thing that I will appreciate about Brisbane, sort of with the sport where it's not what they're used to. Brisbane is kind of like, to me, a junior Melbourne in the fact that they really do support everything that comes their way. Even if they're not doing well, you'll still get, a small enough group of passionate people. When I've been to sporting events in Sydney, there's just not a vibe. Sydney's a weird place to watch sport, and I like Sydney, but it's just, there's not a passion level in Sydney as I feel there is in the majority of other cities in the country.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think you look at Melbourne, and they are
sporting capital of the world.
Okay, they're a sporting capital of the world. They're also the culture capital. I know more theatres in Melbourne than I do in Sydney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I can mention. I think there's 2 in Sydney I can mention. There's about 5 in Melbourne I can mention. I've worked in 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to Brisbane, you got the Q-Pack, the Playhouse. They've got South Bank. They've got all these amazing features there. And this is going to sound really bad. Oh, my goodness. The biggest thing about Brisbane and Melbourne is they don't have the immense mixture of different cultures. So, like, you've got in Melbourne, you do have like your basic big city mix, but you don't have it as heavy as it is in the middle of Sydney, where let me finish, where they, instead of immersing themselves as a collective group, they segregate themselves into mini conclave.
I think, the last bit I definitely agree with you, because to me, Sydney's more of a city where it's diverse, but they're in pockets. Melbourne, I would disagree. I think Melbourne's very eclectic. I mean, but they're just all mixed together. You just don't notice. I mean, Melbourne has the largest Greek population outside of Athens. Melbourne has more.
No, I'm not saying that it's not diverse. What I'm saying is
you don't notice the differences. Everyone's mixed together.
That's it. Right. You don't go driving down the road and think you're driving in Korea because there's a glass window cleaner company in front of you. The only way you know they're a glass window cleaner is because there's a picture of that. The rest is written in Korean. And I'm not saying that that's a bad. I'm not saying that in a racist way. I'm just saying they don't immerse themselves as a collective. They immerse themselves in cells.
And I think that just comes down to, for the most part, people come to Australia. What's the first place you're going to go to? Sydney. And people generally, if you're from a certain country, you're going to want to move and live sort of around people to sort of, assimilate yourself, but also feel comfortable. It's like, it's no different to if, we move to, an Asian country where maybe there's a certain part of a city where the Australians live. We'd want to probably live there.
And I think one of our biggest issues, and as I'm saying, as for me and you, is we both grew up in a city that was not as diverse as any other city in Australia.
Not at the time, definitely. No, I think it's
not
changed.
At the time. And I say we grew up. I'm saying when we grew up. I remember when we went to high school, they had the. I think there was only. Like, you can probably count them on two hands how many people from a different culture was actually there. Individuals.
Yeah, and then that was, I remember in high school, it was sort of a big push from, like, the Sudanese refugees. Like, remember John Worker, people like that, like, great guys.
Yeah.
And, but, like, you're right. Like, it was a very, this might sound wrong, but I'm not meaning it to sound wrong. They stood out. But it is interesting, too, because, like, I remember... It's a fascinating that you bring that up, actually, because, you think back to, like, primary school and high school and kind of the diversity of your school. And even in primary school, I remember I was friends with a guy, like, in grade 2 or 3, and he was from the Philippines. But, like, even thinking sort of as you grew up, like, we were all white. Like, we were. Like, it's...
Yeah. And what's interesting for me, though, is because I went to primary school up until grade 3 in New South Wales. In that primary school, we had it was actually quite diverse. We had Asian cultures that were represented. We had I have to say this because there is a difference between Tasmanian Aboriginals and mainland Aboriginals. We had dark skin coloured Aboriginals, and there were also a mixture of Islander kids too. So some Samoa, Tonga, Cook Island, all that. And so I from kindergarten to grade 3, I was like, yes, I understand, like, different colours. And then when I first I went to the first primary school I went to in Tasmania. Is in a small town, and it was like going to a clan meeting. There was no...
Well, that's New Norfolk for you.
And then you got this, like, what I found really difficult. I remember it was like the first few days. I was playing with one of the kids, and this other kid comes up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm an Aboriginal." I shouldn't talk like that. I said, "I'm Indigenous. I'm Aboriginal." I looked at him. I went, "No, you're not. You got red hair. You got blue eyes.
Sorry.
In fact, your skin is whiter than mine." I got in trouble for that. I didn't know at that time that Aboriginals could be white.
Yeah, but when you're young, and I mean, this is why kids, and you've got kids. I'm sure you know this more than anything. Is it like kids are honest? Kids don't hold back. Kids don't know. One of the funniest when I was in New York and I was lining up to go into the New World Trade Center to the observation deck. There was a couple behind me who had a very young child. I don't know how old this child were. This child said, "Mummy, I don't want to go up the tower. I'm afraid a plane will fly into it again." And then, like, this, like the parents, like, shh, shh, shh. And I'm just like, whoa, not that place, but okay. They just said that. But that's the beauty of kids.
But what would have been different is if that child come up and went, "Mummy, I don't want to go under that because some sand monkey's going to fly a plane into it." Like, if it started saying, like, a racial slur, then you go, that kid's heard it from somewhere.
True.
That kid, like, I'll tell you a story. This is when I first got married to Naomi. The kids were young. Her kids were a lot younger at this point. I think Liam wasn't even in primary school yet. I think it was like a year off. And we were in Canberra. It was a really hot day. The air conditioning in the car was broken, so I had all the windows down. And we stopped at this red light. And this Sudanese, like, I'm going to say Sudanese Moroccan, the typical... not brown, but really black skinned person. Like, it was really dark. Is it the traffic light? He also looked like he could kick the crap out of me with his finger, like he was built too, like Alfred Corker. Alfred.
I miss Alfred.
He's a good bloke.
Good guy.
He's a top. I see him on Facebook. He's a good bloke. But so Liam is also not a quiet kid. He goes, "Mum, why is that guy black?"
Wow.
I mean, he's really black.
Did you get your lights punched out?
I'm just going, I'm sorry. And I'm thinking in my head, do I make up he's got a disability? Do I do that? Like, it's saying that. It's saying that.
I don't know why he's got autism. Got it. That's him.
Yeah, but the funny thing with that, okay, I don't want to say if it's funny or not, but anyway, you know what I do for work now? I work in disability. I work with a young man with autism who's 21, and he's got some very good opinions on him. And one of the first days I was working with him, I took him down. There's a place down here called Mitch's Jetty. It's just like a little jetty it's like, I say little, like it's about 5 meters long, and there's usually a boat tied. You can jump off to it, and you go for a walk around the beach. It's a really nice area. And we put the car park, and this is the middle of the summer school holidays, mind you. And this Islamic family was in the car next to us, getting out of the car. He's gotten out, and he has this stare. Even it's like his RBF, but he looks like he's staring at you, like he's judging you, and that's the kind of face he pulls. And he just goes, "Josh, why are there muzzos here?"
Oh.
I've gone, "Oh no, Clancy, shut up!" And then I've just said, just keep walking. I'll be there in a second. I've gone to the dad. I'm so sorry. I'm his carer. The guy was like, "Yeah, it's all good, mate. It's all good. I get it. It's all." And like most of the time, people are okay with that sort of stuff. They get it. They understand. And I think that shows that there is some humanity left in some people.
Yeah.
Other people, not so much.
Well, it's only the negative side of things, situations like that you ever hear about. I mean, that's why it's perceived that there's a bigger problem than I feel there actually is. You know, it's kind of one white guy goes and kills 51 people and claims it's to, you know, make the white race pure again, and automatically we've got a global white supremacy problem. So it's kind of, because it's such a beat up in the media about these things. So.
But with the issue with that drop kick, he did what he did. Now, I actually have two issues with how it's been handled. The first one is Prime Minister Ardern making it illegal for anyone to look up the manifesto that he wrote in New Zealand
and the video. There's constantly people being prosecuted over here. If you see the video, you're going to jail.
I think that's illegal. That to me, that's a breach of human rights. That's my opinion. I'm Australian. I'm not New Zealander, and I'm not going to bag out New Zealand for it. It's just one law that I have an issue with, and the other one. The other issue with it all is how misrepresented it was. If you've actually, I've sat there and I've read the manifesto, and if you read it, he actually outlines who he is and what he's doing and why he's doing it. And he's also taking the piss out of a lot of things. But one of the things he makes very clear that he is not he's not a right wing, he's more left, that he is an eco-fascist, and that there are other things that happen along the way that the media just goes, "No, he's a right-wing white supremacist, and that this shows a problem with the right," and the da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just sitting there going, no, does not show a problem with the right, it shows a problem with an individual who got a gun and did an abhorrent thing, and he should be buried beneath the prison without a straw to breathe with.
And I agree with you completely in the fact that they take one side of things and then blow it out of proportion. I mean, we look what's sort of happened in Melbourne again recently with the young girl who was killed, and they automatically it's an epidemic. We've had 4 young women killed by men, and then it all comes down to men need to stop raping and killing women. And you would not have this against any other person out there. If there is a terrorist attack and it's conducted by, someone of Muslim origin, we're not going to have a big outcry. Muslims need to stop being terrorists. Like, you could not say that. And because what they do is they have a group to put them in. Mm-hmm.
They're not Islamic. They're an Islamic extremist.
But but like the thing, there was a very well written article that I shared on my Twitter page. He's one of the, and it's weird because I do not like news.com.au, but he's actually one of the editors at large on news.com.au, and I believe he's also a regular on whatever that Channel 10 morning show is. It used to be called The Circle, now it's called whatever it is. But he got a bit into trouble because, he said something like, it's not all men or something like that. And then, everyone's like, oh, you're taking away from the agenda, you're doing this, you're doing that. And this is what happens with how debates and that they get skewed away. And this is, I'm not trying to say, like, people throw statistics, 88% of, murders conducted by men or, like, things like that. Okay, fair enough. The statistics show in favor of that. I'm not saying that they don't. Like, I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, I could throw a bunch of statistics at you in regards to, a certain race, a certain, sexuality, who does something, who does this and does that, and then you're automatically perceived as racist. So, like, if we want true equality, and this is what always gets misconstrued, when someone like myself, turns around and starts this argument, you automatically get shoved down with, oh, well, you're the patriarchy, you can say that, you're a white male, like, just things like that. And we're not playing the victim card. It's a level field for everybody out there with true equality, that you can't blatantly turn around and say something like men need to stop raping women and murdering them, because the percentage, and this is what that guy was trying to say in his very well written article, is that there is a percentage of absolute tosspots out there who feel it is okay to rape a woman or rape a man, rape in general, to murder, to hurt people out there. And, like, just as you said, that was an idiot with a gun who went and did that. Okay, he had some viewpoints, he had some ideologies, he published it out there, he knew he was going to get attention, right? At the end of the day, we all have opinions. We all have viewpoints. We all have this. If I went and murdered someone and I turned around and said, it's because I really don't like the colour red, you're not all of a sudden going to be like, oh, wow, well, we have to ban the colour red because somebody murdered a bunch of people. Like, at the end of the day, people are fucked up. There are going to be even more fucked up people who are going to murder and hurt, and whether that's with whatever out there capabilities they've got. And rather than targeting a specific gender, religion, race, anything, because that segregates more people, that creates more divide. By doing that, let's focus on helping these people who show signs or may have this ability that one day they're going to go and do something fucked up, like killing a bunch of people all at once. And that's how I feel about it.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I think the biggest issue that we face when it comes to this sort of thing is the fact that, and I'm going to be labeling it, it is the left. There is a militant left. It's not all left. It's a militant left that go out there and they want to force and compel people to do certain things. Now, the equality side of it, they go, we want equality on all parts, yet they're not saying what they want. Sorry, they're not saying what they don't want. They go, wording this completely wrong. They're going, all right, we want equality. However, we don't want the responsibility that goes along with this equality. We want to be able to have it so that 50-50 females and men do this, 50-50 females and men do this, 50-50 females do this, right?
It's impossible.
And then they go, it is impossible. In fact, there are the countries that they always bring up saying how well these countries have been left alone to their own devices, where there is equal opportunity, which I agree with. The opportunity should be there, and the freedom to choose to the individual to do what they want. And when they've done that in these countries where it's been in place since the 50s, where it's been women and men, or black or white, homosexual or straight, can do whatever they want, and you know what happens? Typical gender roles, stay-at-home mothers, women going to nursing or early childhood care, and they choose to go there. They're not compelled to do anything else. They're not kicked out of doing anything else. They are choosing to do that. And that's the thing, is like, you got these people saying, well, how come women can't do this? Are they as a collective group choosing to do that, or are they choosing to do this? What are they choosing to do? Now, the issue of having this discussion is, I can guarantee you there is going to be someone who will listen to this and they'll be offended. And this is what, and this is where the responsibility and the consequences of freedom of speech come into it. You cannot have a reasonable discussion without risking being offended or risk being offensive.
Completely agree.
So, but it is also essential to have discussions like this so we can build upon things. If we are stuffing up, we can actually we are stuffing up here. All right, we can fix that. That's fine. And that happens when you have a civil discussion that talks about things that people then turn into militant, offensive arrows. That's what I call it. Because I'll sit there, like, you've known me well enough for years. You can make any joke about religion you want towards me. Have I ever been offended to the point where I'm like, you're an a-hole, I don't want anything to do with you?
No.
Okay? And I probably would have offended you some way, but it's never gotten to the, like,
have you?
It's more like, I don't know. I know for the fact that you would have looked at me and gone, you're a dick.
I'd say that to you anyway.
That's it. But I think that's where we should stop. When we're offended, we go, oh, you're a dick. And then continue. Because that's, and you got these people who just, like, I listen to, funnily enough, because I'm a right-wing person, I listen to Ben Shapiro, I listen to Jordan Peterson, I listen to Steven Crowder, I listen to these people, and I see how they approach things. Like, they're louder with Crowder. One of the things that he does is doing the whole change my mind. He wants to have civil discussions on hot topics that he has a side on, and he wants to hear from the other people, giving them a chance to give their evidence. He goes, I'm only discussing evidence. We're not getting, we're not going to get into any of the, hearsay rubbish. And 9 times out of 10, the left can't do that. They cannot come up with a civil discussion with evidence. They can't do that. And then and one of my favorite sayings coming out of Ben Shapiro is, facts don't care about your feelings.
Mm.
And that's the thing, and you can twist and turn any numbers on anything. I could say, well, you know what, Ben, I've looked at 3 professions and I found it's incredibly offensive that 90% of all employment roles given in these professions have gone to women. How come men can't get into it?
And I mean, look, that's a whole debate around things like quotas and that, which, I've got very strong beliefs that quotas are a stupid idea. We agree. We totally agree. Completely stupid. But the one thing I will say, it's fascinating that us in Western society have things like this that, really come full circle as the big issues and everything and how we are today when, in the majority of life that we have in our society, everyone is equal. In the, 80 to 90, 95% of how you and I live, how females live, how gay people live, how, transgender people live, for the most part, you name a type or whatever you want to say, and we all live in equality. And yes, there are still things out there that are not equal. I'm not saying that we're in a perfect society. We're not. But for the most part, we do. Yet
we're developing towards it, though.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
And there are definitely issues out there that need to be fought for to create equality. All genders, all sexualities, all races. Absolutely. The thing, though, that you look at countries around the world where, it's completely different. You think of some of these, countries in the Middle East, in Africa, who have these, from our perspective, I should say, are abhorrent. Countries who have death penalties for being gay, women who can't drive, and, just things that we look at and are like, that is disgusting. Like, how can that be a thing? And yet here we are fighting over whether or not this or that or anything like that. And it's an interesting world for us to be able to live in where you have that sort of situation.
Well, here's the one that I found real. I don't know why I do it to myself, but I listen to the ABC news all the time, and they went from being fairly reputable, in my opinion, to very left and very opinionated.
I completely agree. Somebody who wanted to steer away from news.com.au and use a reputable news source in the last recent times, even ABC Grandstander, I love my sport, but this week I had to unfollow them because the amount of left crap that was coming out, and I don't define myself as left or right. I'm centre. I have views on the left, I have views on the right. I'm all over the spectrum. But when I'm constantly seeing the barrage of stuff that even the sporting side of ABC is putting out to me, and I've never been one to see this alleged bias. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Now I'm starting to see it, and it's really starting to annoy me. Because I want I want
yeah.
impartial news. I want, as a journalist myself, I want to read the A's, the B's, the C's. I want the inverted pyramid, the facts at the top, the crap at the bottom. I want the who, what, why, when, how. I don't want but this is the gender agenda you should feel. Like, this is how, and that's how they're writing. This is why the media's got such a worse name of itself now. It's because of clickbait. It's because of these agenda-seeking journalists who aren't even journalists. So many of these people are
They're
not
glorified
journalists.
bloggers. That's what they are. They are glorified bloggers.
Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, I know, I totally agree. But what I listened to on the ABC this morning, I got really freaking angry. Because the reporter goes, as we approach the Queen's birthday, we will be having the nominations today come out for the Order of Australia medal given to civilians. However, a school teacher in Queensland has said she made a horrific discovery about the award. This is her. Only 30% of the award winners in the last 50 years have been women. And they start going into why. And they go, statistically, women will nominate a man and a man will nominate a man. It's like, okay, the opportunity is there for a woman to receive it. No one is saying no, but collectively, as a group of people, we're looking at individuals and their merit, not the fact that it's 50-50, like you have to nominate a man and a woman. No, you nominate an individual for what they've done to Australian society. And I'm not discounting women's roles in Australian society. For heaven's sakes, I know that many women who should deserve that medal. However, why are they not being nominated? Let's look at the reason to why they're not being nominated, not saying that we need to nominate them.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's the biggest issue, I think, also, is the fact that we're looking at, like, we've got an issue here with our council. We have a very green council, and I hate them so much. I hate our local government. And one of the, Kathy Griff, she is the Green, she's a member of the Greens Party. She ran for the council under the Greens ticket, which in New South Wales is legal to do. You can run in a political party for local government, unlike Tasmania where it's illegal. Excuse me. And she has just come out saying that we're going to make it so, because we have a housing crisis here in Bega, and that we're going to make it so lifetime leases on houses with rent control, so you can't raise the rent, and if you want to evict them, you need to give them 12 months' notice, and it has to be a viable decision to why you're doing it. And if you don't rent your house out, we will double your rates, and also you are not allowed to cherry pick on who you rent the house to. The first applicant gets your house.
Wow.
To me, and it's like, okay, you've come up with a solution for a housing crisis by compelling property owners to essentially hand over their property to the first person that knocks on their door saying they want a house to rent. Then you're saying that you can't kick them out. Then you're saying that we're going to financially penalise you for not doing that. Next part of it, right, is how the hell does that solve the problem?
Yeah.
It doesn't. You got to look at the reason to why. You got to. So many people go, here's a solution. All right. Why do we have the problem in the first place?
And this is like when it comes to, say, quotas. My argument always has been that you think about if we have 10 positions for doctors, for let's say brain surgeons, and you have 100 applicants, and yet you have to have 5 men and 5 women. Now, let's throw this around. Let's just not go for the assumption that all the best ones are going to be men, right? Let's assume that 95 of those, the top 95 of those people are women, and then the bottom 5 are men. Now, are you going to want the top 10 candidates of that to operate you and save your life? Or if you have to have 5 men and 5 women, you have to have 1 through to 5 being your female applicants, and then your men applicants have to be 96 through to 100. So you have the potential to have the 96th best surgeon out there operating on you rather than the number 6 surgeon. And I don't give a flying fuck if it's a man or a woman. I want the 6th best surgeon doing it based on their ability. And this is where it comes down to education. It doesn't come down to, fuck, we need to have 50% split in politics or whatever it is. We need to have systems in place if it's for young girls to get into politics, and it's changing. All these people who complain that cabinet doesn't have women in it, this doesn't have women in it. You go back and you look at this 20, 30 years ago to the numbers, to what we have today. We have more women in parliament than we did back then, and that's down to education. These facts have been raised, and more women are getting that opportunity to go into political things or whatever it is, and that's where we need to start it, and not by automatically giving you a seat at the table based on agenda, because no matter how you frame quotas, that is sexist or discriminatory towards certain people, because you have to have a certain level of things. You are doing that based on a person's gender, and that is discrimination.
I'll tell you something scary. And this is happening in the States at the moment. So they have recently put in in some universities, in some major universities in the United States, where they have a quota on minorities going into the medical fields. Okay, so in order to in the United States, there is a test, an exam that you have to sit in order to be eligible to even get into medical school. I can't remember the name of the test, but to pass it is quite high. It's like 85% on this test. Otherwise, you will not be getting in. However, if you are part of a minority or a female, I don't know if it's just female. No, I'm just to keep it. So I know I'm telling you the right thing. I'm not going to say female. It's just minorities. They lowered and in some cases just ignored the entrance score. And some of these people were getting 60s, 50, and in some cases a guy got in on a 25% pass on this exam, just to fill in quotas in the medical field. Now, he was able to coast through. These people were able to coast through the course and become doctors. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
What does that say? And the way I see it, if you want to have true equality, I have a social experiment I would love to do. I would love to have it so when you go through an application process for a job or a course or whatever, unless it specifically requires, like in the acting area, like a female who's black who's this size. But say if it is in any other sort of thing, no names.
Completely
have
agree.
A serial number.
Completely
serial
agree.
number.
Yep.
I'm sick and tired of seeing the question, are you an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, on a form. I hate it. Why does it flippin' matter?
Yep, exactly.
You want to, and it's just creating more divide between the two groups. You want to have equality. Why does it flippin' matter? Have all these things and just have, okay, where did you go to school? What did you score on your ACTs? What did you do on this? Did you get your TCE? Did you do this? Did you do that? Basic merits. That's it.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And yeah, that is I believe exactly the same thing. So one of the other, like you talking about the ABC, the one that really got me up this week was the Women's World Cup soccer's about to start, and the Matildas, our great team, they're doing very well. In a world where a lot of our sporting teams are not doing well, the Matildas are really doing well. But they've come out and threatened to sue basically FIFA if they do not get equal prize money as the men did last year in Russia. And there was a great article on Forbes that basically kind of squashed this, because this is one of the things that gets me the most angry is the female side of things, where they argue for equality in pay and exposure in women's sport. And the fact that really was damning with that is that the amount of revenue produced by both the men's and women's World Cups, the absolute discrepancy in there in terms of how much extra money each tournament makes. But women actually get 13% of total revenue from Women's World Cup. Men only get 9%. And yet they will get more because the Men's World Cup makes more. And then you look at also certain other things that people don't take into fact. During the Men's World Cup, they have to play so many more games than the women have to play to even get there, and everything else of that. It's no different to my argument with tennis, that people turn around and say, well, tennis is equal because in the Grand Slams, the men and the women get the same amount of prize money. No, it is not equal, because women play best of 3 sets, men play best of 5 sets. Women actually get paid more for less work. If you want to make it equal, make the men play 3 sets or the women play 5 sets. And sporting revenue all comes down to the bucks. Don't blame the organization. Don't blame FIFA. Don't blame all these other organisations for paying the men more than the women more. Blame the advertisers. Blame the organisations that get behind it. Because if you want to throw that, when you play that card, let's talk about the modelling industry. Let's talk about the porn industry, where women make 10 times more than men in both those industries. But we're not hearing things on that because at the end of the day, we know that modelling, for the most part, women are going to sell the products, and in porn, most of it, men are the audience, so they're going to want to watch women having sex, not men having sex. So there's so many levels to this, which is just ridiculous. It all comes down to revenue. It's no one is discriminating them based on their gender.
And that's exactly yes, that is right. And it's, you know what? I bet you if you did a poll, an anonymous poll of women in sport. And so would you want to have equal pay to men? And like with that explanation of everything, like the actual facts on a sheet, and say, do you think men have it better or women have it better? I would I would be very intrigued to see what their answers would be. And I don't think a majority of them would be on that feministic sort of mindset saying, no, we want the same as men no matter how much work we do.
There's no argument to me in anything with that. And I don't know how this will sound, but like, the Men's World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world in terms of countries who compete, in terms of revenue, television audience. It's bigger than the Olympics. And then you look at the Women's World Cup, which people on the street, 1 out of 10 people would barely know it's on. And secondly, put that on the TV networks. Why isn't it as exposed as much as we get the Men's World Cup and things like that? Like, it's a great event. The Women's World Cup is a fantastic event, and it's equally as entertaining as the men's event. But you cannot put it on it, and it's not down to a gender issue. I mean, AFLW, for example, has been a great thing for introducing women to play Australian rules football. It's been fantastic. People came out this year because the grand final attracted a sellout Adelaide Oval with 55,000 people, full to the brink. That was. They let people in for free. I guarantee you, if you had have charged the amount of money you charge for a men's ticket for the AFL men's grand final, you would barely fill that stadium. They had to charge nothing to get people into the stadium. It was great that they got a full stadium. Fantastic. It shows that people want to support this sport, and it's fantastic. But you're not going to, don't claim that as a win for the sport when you're letting people in for free. It's not a win for the sport.
Well, it was a little bit like that with, remember the rugby game that we went to at Hobart Stadium?
Yes, the Hobart Storm Broncos, right?
Yeah. That was a free event, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was.
No. It was a pre-season event, so...
It was a pre-season event, but it was
free for us. We were media, so...
but it was cheap, though. It wasn't... There weren't expensive tickets. It was like... It was either... instead of... like when you go to a footy game, it's like going to cost you like $60, $70 to get in. It was like $20, $30. So it was relatively cheap compared to what they usually are.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened at Hobart Oval. It was full.
Both the full and streaker. Yeah,
I remember the streaker.
I mean, this is the thing though. Like, we could debate this for hours, and we clearly are nearly. But I mean, one example in terms of that.
We're not though. We agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing too, you look at in Tasmania at the moment, they've had the Southern Huskies, who are, of course, playing over here in the New Zealand National Basketball League. And it's great that Tassie's sort of got this national team again as they really try to get back into the Australian NBL. But the issue that people are complaining about, my dad loved, growing up, my dad and I would love nothing more than going to watch the Hobart Devils play when we had a team in the NBL. That Doan Entertainment Centre was packed. Every weekend we had a game. It was incredible.
I used to follow the Devils.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. It was sold out every single week, and basically, eventually we ran out of money, so we lost the team. Now, people are sort of saying, well, where's this support for the Southern Huskies? They're not selling it they're charging $40 a ticket to these games. Over here in New Zealand, where I live in the city where the reigning champions are, the Southland Sharks, they barely charge $20 a ticket, and they're the reigning champions. And admittedly, they don't sell out the stadium here. Funnily enough, we're talking about women's and men's sport here. Netball gets larger crowds here in Invercargill than the basketball does. It's great. I really enjoy going to the netball games here. But, that's funny.
To me it is, because it was a conversation I had with someone the other day about how much I can't stand the game of netball.
You should talk to Mallory. Mallory doesn't understand the damn sport. She's like, what the hell are they doing?
I just I don't get why it's so... I don't like it. I think it's stupid.
I mean, look, I think it's just a game.
Uniforms are fine, but not the game.
I wouldn't put it in my top 10 favourite sports. I might not even put it in my top 20 favourite sports. But I think when you're in a stadium and you kind of got like a packed house and it's kind of, it's entertaining, I think. And I have to say,
I see it as a game of people who can't run with a ball. Like they lack the cognitive ability to run with the ball and bounce it at the same time. That's what I see.
Yeah,
but I will say, okay, credit where credit's due. They are not. There's no backboard on the net, which is that would be quite difficult, I believe. And it's like, yeah, let's play stuck in the mud, but throw a ball at a circle.
I remember stuck in the mud.
Okay. Did you guys ever play fruit salad? You remember that?
It sounds familiar. It's yummy. But
no. Where you line up at one end of the quad, and you're given a fruit like a mandarin, banana, apple, whatever, and then you do this thing where like so there'd be someone in the middle and they'd yell out a fruit, and then all the bananas would run.
Oh yeah. Yep. What was that one? It was a similar thing where, and wasn't it Lion or something where you would yell out and they'd have to take a step, and then if you turned around and caught them, like they had to run back. Is that the same thing, right? Like,
no. That's What's the Time, Mr. Wolf.
Oh, What's the Time, Mr. Wolf? Yes. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? 7 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? Dinner time. I remember that. Yes.
Oh, mate. You know what?
These are Olympic sports, people. None of this stupid wall climbing that's coming next year or frickin' skateboarding in the Olympics. Keep that in the X Games. I want fucking What's the Time, Mr. Wolf in the Olympics.
Can you imagine that? Here we have the Ukrainian, the German, and the French competing for the gold.
And they have to
we have, as a guest, David Attenborough as the wolf.
He approaches very slowly.
No, Usain Bolt as the wolf.
You see someone with giant legs, like in basketball, Andrew Bogut with giant legs, so just like take a giant step forward. Josh, it's always fun. We've been here for an hour. We've extended this week's Brink by a long time by our segment, but as always, appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, time to close it out if we don't destroy our microphone like you heard before. Like us on Facebook, follow us, subscribe, all the relevant fun stuff that we often say at this point. Anything you wish to add right now as you're scratching your nose? We lost a lot of weight this week. Can we celebrate that on air?
We can.
You lost how many?
3.2 kilos.
I lost 5.8.
Ben lost so much weight this week. I'm still in shock.
I lost more than our cat weighs. But the thing is, I lost 5.8 kilos, but no one has said to me, you look like you've lost weight. So 5.8 kilos is a lot of weight to lose in a week, and not one person has commented on it. So I'm like, well, fuck you, world. Fuck you all.
I think your beard might hide it in the face a little bit. I reckon your face is thinner, but just because of your beard, you can't really tell.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we'll be back next week with more fun and hopefully celebrating Raptors winning. Carlton won this week too, so that should be brief. So Ash Barty won the French Open. Ash Barty's appeared on the show, so congratulations, Ash. Former guest. Briefly guest. We interviewed her many years ago when the Fed Cup was in Hobart, so very brief. But she's now a World Cup. But she quit tennis to go and play cricket. And then she said, nah, fuck this. I'm going back to tennis. And now she's won a Grand Slam. That's pretty incredible that you give up, do something else, go, nah, not for me, come back, and you do even better than you did before. So, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Ferrari got pole. I don't know if they'll win tomorrow morning. Probably not. But hey, she just wants to go. She wants to eat food. You got to record a promo yet, but it won't take you long. Thanks for tuning in. Do all the regular things, and until we next speak again, keep sucking those
oranges.
Over Cargill and Bon Wheat.